Order. Please be seated. Order. Honorable members, the only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the President. Members may press the talk button on their desks if they wish to ask a supplementary question. The first question has been asked by the Honorable P.T. Mandashe. The President.
Honorable Speaker, as we mentioned in the State of the Nation address, income inequality and economic exclusion of the majority of our people from the mainstream of the economy cannot be sustained and has to be attended to seriously. The exclusion will not lead to the levels of economic growth we require in order to eradicate poverty, inequality, and unemployment. It will also make our attempts at achieving true reconciliation futile. The country needs to undergo radical socio-economic transformation, which is a decision that was taken by the governing party, the ANC, at its 2012 National Conference in Mangaung. One of the key aspects is to ensure the participation of Black people in the economy as owners and top managers, and not only as workers. The Constitution of the Republic is not as explicit on economic rights as it is on political rights. However, it does enjoin us to use legislative and other measures to reverse the discrimination of the past suffered by the Black people. Government will continue to work with business and labor to achieve the goals set out in the State of the Nation address and other programs to bring Black people into the mainstream of the economy. The unity of purpose and action amongst us is underpinned by the National Development Plan, which is a roadmap for every key stakeholder and citizen in South Africa. Honorable Speaker, we are indeed pleased with the good working relations between government and the private sector. We have been building on an existing good history of working together. The NADLAC mechanism has proven to be an effective clearinghouse for policies and laws. In recent times, this mechanism has helped us to achieve agreement on the national minimum wage. We have also worked together successfully in times of crisis. Since the beginning of the global economic crisis in 2008, we have worked together and found mechanisms of cushioning the economy. We continue to work together to reignite growth given the ongoing pressure on the global and the domestic economy. Together, we established the CEO initiative and meet at a high level as business, government, and labor to discuss critical issues facing the economy and inclusive growth. We also work together in designing implementation plans for key sectors in the implementation of the NDP through our flagship Operation Pakisa Big Fast Results Program. Experts from business, labor, government, academia, and professional organizations come together to develop implementation plans in this unique program. We have successfully developed implementation plans for the ocean economy, health, and basic education. We are busy developing plans for agriculture and rural development, as well as mining through the Operation Pakisa initiatives directed at these two sectors. We have also seen the fruits of working together in the mining sector, especially on the platform belt in the on the platinum belt in the Northwest province, which had been hit by labor instability a few years ago. We commend labor and business in the mining sector for bringing about stability in the sector. Working together has also proven to be helpful with regards to marketing the country to promote inward investments at premier forums such as the World Economic Forum meetings. We look forward to sending a central positive message about the country together in May this year, when the World Economic Forum on Africa meets in Durban. Last year, a new initiative of joint international marketing road shows was undertaken by business, government, and labor to the United Kingdom and the United States, led by the Minister of Finance. Another roadshow is scheduled to be undertaken later this month. We also value the inputs we receive from business and labor in engagements at key forums such as BRICS and the G20. With unity in action between business and labor, government and civil society, we will make progress in addressing economic and social exclusion in our country and achieve the meaningful transformation that is required. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Madashe.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, President. But I want to understand, President, whether business and labor have shown any degree of commitment in addressing the triple challenges of our country this time around, because in 2002, they went to a socio-economic transformation summit, and we hope this time around it won't be a summit, but there will be a sort of enforcement and implementation program. I thank you, President.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I've indicated, the activities that have taken place so far between government and business, including labor and civil society, I think have given an indication that we are working together. We are firstly accepting that the country, like all other countries during the economic meltdown, face challenges, and what are the things we can do together to ensure that we are able, firstly, to cushion our economy, and secondly, to invest wisely to areas which will help us grow our economy, but also create jobs. So yes, there are some evidence that have shown that working together has indeed given some successes in the economic area where we've been working together. And I think that kind of unity of these sectors in the country certainly is the only thing we can do to ensure that we are able to defend our economy, but also to work together to grow our economy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Shengwa.
Ngiyathokoza Somlomo Msholozi. You have spoken about radical economic transformation. You spoke at some point about the second phase of the transition. At some point you spoke about a good story to tell. And none of these things have actually materialized any tangible success with our people. Unemployment continues to grow. It now stands at 27.2%. We have seen the resistance of organized labor, particularly COSATU, around the issues of GEAR, ASGISA, the youth wage subsidy, and most recently the NDP. Moreover, they've spoken about the BEE process, considering it to be a stumbling block. In all these instances, Mr. President, I want to find out from you whether through the NEDLEP process or through the tripartite alliance, what issues has COSATU in particular and other organized labor have they raised as areas of concern about the NDP and any of the suggestions you have, and what is government doing to deal with those issues, because labor is an integral part of the success which South Africa needs in order for us to address the issues of unemployment, particularly amongst young people. Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Although the Honorable Member is touching upon issues historically that have happened, we are not saying there has not been disagreements in the course since 1994, wherein workers have raised issues very seriously, even issues when government was emerging with certain policies. But that does not mean the country has not moved forward. The country has moved forward. Yes, we have a good story to tell. And I think if you make a comparison between South Africa and any other country in the continent, in 20 years, we are not going to find a country that could identify the progress we have made in 20 years after freedom. We have. That is a good story to tell. The very fact that South Africa is recognized as the biggest economy in the continent is a good story to tell. So you can't say there's been no good story to tell. There has been. We have programs that are very clear that government has implemented. Among others, the infrastructure. It's a reality. There is development in the country in various ways. What has caused some difficulties has been the economic problems that emerged in 2008 that affected all countries in the world, not just South Africa, all countries. In other countries, even worse than in South Africa. But even if that was the case, we have made progress. The fact that today we can talk about unemployment, it does not mean in the figures you do not have employment that has been made by the program that the government has put forward. There is. What has been the difficulty has been the economic meltdown, because South Africa can't trade to itself. It has to trade with all other countries. And therefore, the story of South Africa is absolutely correct. We have introduced, for an example, Operation Pakisa, which has added impetus in the efforts that we are making to grow our economy. So it will be, if somebody said nothing has happened in this country, then it will be somebody who's not observing the activities of this country, or who is not living in South Africa. There are areas, for an example, since 1994, that you can agree that they have changed. But it's not enough, and that we agree. So, with our policies, with our programs, we believe we have made progress in the country under very difficult conditions. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, thank you for those responses. Mr. President, in line with the inequality and your statements that radical economic transformation must take place, and it must take place as soon as possible. Mr. President, we find, and I'm going to give you an example, under 20% of blacks hold managerial positions in the country today. If you take the Western Cape, which has over 50% of a colored community, over 50% of the female colored community, under 3% hold managerial positions. Now, Mr. President, this is the colonialist and imperialist way of protecting their territory. And you would have heard recently that even the Premier Helen Zille is now defending colonialism. Mr. President, now that you have spoken about radical economic transformation, what are you going to do to force these imperialist ideologies from changing and ensuring that the lives of our people are changed for the better, and it is done in a process that will not be delayed any further? Thank you, Mr. President.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Of course, part of the reason we have talked about second phase of our economic development and radical economic transformation is precisely to address the historic economic structure of our country, which has been structured through the wrong policies of racialism, which excluded the majority in this country. We are now saying we must move quicker, radically, and change the ownership, the system, the structure of our economy. It will include the Western Cape. It's not like a different place. We'll have to do it in the whole country. We are working hard, firstly, to find probable supporting policies as well as legal, in terms of legislation, to do the things we need to do, to break the monopoly and make the economy to be shared among all South Africans. And the participation must move along those lines. I don't think we could now talk forever. We needed to act. And this is what we have said, and this is what we were saying in the State of the Nation address. What is left of government is to indeed have the very specific and programs that are clear, that are effective, that we implement those policies. As I've just indicated, that we took this position of radical economic transformation in 2012. And I think it is now time that we implement those kind of positions we undertook. And that is what will change the balance in the economy. And it will grow the economy. It will create more jobs. But it will also deal very decisively with poverty, with inequality, with unemployment. That's a policy we have adopted, and we are going to implement it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Maimane.
Ngiyabonga Mongameli. The crucial issue is that at the recent NEDLAC summit, an accord was signed which commits business labor to work in a way that enhances cohesion. I think you and I would agree that part of the work that we've got to do to ensure that work is created for the 9 million South Africans who are unemployed is to create a supportive environment for small businesses. Now, Mr. President, part of the accord equally so condemns widespread strike violence by unions when they go through the streets. Because you saw recently, even COSAS yesterday went through Gauteng, looted streets. It's become quite clear that before you were not comfortable with challenging COSATU on this issue, but now that they've given an endorsement to CR17, maybe you might take a different stance. So what I'm wanting to understand is what deliberate actions, Mr. President, are you going to take to ensure that a union such as COSATU, in fact, complies with the accord when they go through the streets, that when there's protest actions, there's violence, there's looting, and ultimately destruction of public property. If there are students, there's action. I want to know what action are you going to take against unions who march in that manner? Thank you very much.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Firstly, COSATU has signed the accord. They're part of it. And I'm sure they will be part of the spirit to implement it. COSATU represents the interests of the workers, and it defends the workers. It has a very specific targeted area and an approach as we live in the society. And nobody can say the workers, even before they do anything, and say you are now, because we are part of an agreement, we are now prohibited to take actions in future. You can't say so. Because actions of COSATU are determined by the prevailing conditions at that time to the specific issues that they'll be dealing with. So there's no president who can say, even before such a situation exists, you say, now, since you are part of this agreement, you are no longer allowed to take your actions. You can't be. If you said, no, now we are going to stop the workers, that is interfering with the right of the workers. Because at any given time, they will have to take a decision, whether they've signed an accord or not, defending the interests of their workers as they see it. So that is what is going to happen. What is important is that the engagement with the workers, including COSATU workers, to interact, to negotiate, has produced an agreement that everybody is happy about, including the workers. And that's what we must hail, that's what we must be happy about. That's what we must say then. How do we implement this? How do we go forward to ensure that in our country you don't have the problem that will undermine this agreement? You will agree that in the recent period, the strikes have not been so many, and they've not been so violent. It is because there's been an engagement of all the stakeholders. And I think we are all adhering, we are all accepting the fact that the economy needs us to work together. And COSATU is part of that. So we cannot predetermine what COSATU will do if there was a problem that faced them, and give the answer now to say, if they did this, this is what we'll do. I think it will be going out of our area of responsibility. We are waiting to see that you are all implementing the agreement. That is what we are working for. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to question number 2, which has been asked by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Section 69(1) of the Constitution of the Republic requires members of Cabinet and Deputy Ministers to act in accordance with a code of ethics prescribed by legislation. In line with the above-mentioned provisions of the Constitution, an executive ethics code was promulgated to govern the conduct of members of the National Executive. The members are briefed on the said code on their assumption of office, adding to the oath of office that they all take when they are sworn into office. From time to time, members of the executive are reminded of their responsibilities in this regard at various cabinet level platforms. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. President, South Africa finds itself in a crisis. 17 million South Africans are sitting at home now wondering if whether their social grants are going to be paid. The question speaks about accountability, and it's what I want to talk about. Because, in fact, the Constitutional Court said for almost 3 years that Minister Batabile Dlamini has defied the court. In fact, Chief Justice Mogoeng yesterday, without precluding the judgment, said she is incompetent, was the words he used. Now, Mr. President, she's ignored several legal warnings. She's clearly putting 17 million South Africans' lives at risk. Now, I think you've issued the statement to say grants will be paid on the 1st of April. That's not the question. My question I want to know is whether or not, if somebody can bring South Africa to such a situation and ignore the Constitutional Court and act as a minister and evade all accountability, do you not believe, along with the call that COSATU has made, you defended them now, COSATU has called for her to be removed. South Africans are calling for her to be removed. I'm certainly one of those saying she must be removed. Do you not believe it's time for you to act and remove Minister Batabile Dlamini from cabinet to safeguard South Africa?
Order. The Honorable, the President.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thought the date that we are talking about has not arrived. The 1st of April. Now, this is another kind of democracy, that if you suspect that somebody is going to fail or make a mistake, you must punish that person before it happens. It's a funny democracy. It's one thing if people raise the issue that, look, we are likely to get into trouble because we suspect that things might not be done, etc. But to act as if the first has come and pensioners' grants have not been given and therefore you must take action. I'm saying it's a funny democracy that says punish a person before they commit a mistake. I've never understood. I thought what this country is doing has been, including the courts, is to address that issue so that we are not going to experience that kind of situation. And that's what the courts have been doing. And I have been briefed by the ministers what they've been doing. In fact, there was at one point a tender out which was not taken by the bidders. And therefore they had to start afresh again. There were very specific problems. I got detailed briefing from both the departments, social development and the treasury. It's not that they were sitting doing nothing all the time. There was, in fact, at one point, a tender to address that, to, in other words, comply to the order of court. There were specific hitches that made this not happen at the time. And now they are dealing with it. As I'm talking to you, Treasury, social development are sitting together to solve the problem. So why punish somebody before anything happens? It's a funny democracy, funny legal system that a person before committing a crime must then be judged and be punished. Phew, you are a Democrat. I thought you stick to democracy and the rule of law. The rule of law does not say you punish a person because you suspect that a person is going to commit a crime. That's not the rule of law. It's almost like the law of the jungle. I get on to you as soon as I think you are almost, I suspect you are about to commit a crime. Then you are punished. No, sir. I disagree, honorable member. There's no crisis. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Nkomo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Can we have some order?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The President of the Republic of South Africa, according to the Constitution, is required to uphold, defend and respect the Constitution, and as his core responsibility, shall with dignity provide executive leadership in the interest of national unity. How and when does the President evaluate the ministers he has appointed to head the various ministries? When are the results of these evaluations made public? In particular, the results of the evaluations of Minister Dlamini and Mutambi, given their recent appalling and blatant disregard of the values of the Constitution of the oath of office they undertook in relation to SASSA and SABC debacle, respectively. I thank you.
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Firstly, I've just answered the question. Sorry, Madam Speaker, I've got a bit of a flu. Honorable members must not say ukuthi ngiyayiqhenya. Lo ngikhwehlelele eceleni, nginomkhuhlane. I've just raised the issue on the Minister Dlamini. To say Minister Dlamini, the issue that is being discussed is that we all believe 1st of April might be a difficulty. It has not happened. How do you evaluate something that has not happened? And evaluate it. It has not happened, and you evaluate a person, you then condemn or whatever you want to do. And the matter has not happened. I think it's an impossible demand As you say, if you talk about evaluation, you evaluate something that has happened. So why should I? The first has not happened, and the minister and his colleagues, we even have a committee, they are working on that matter to happen as expected. That people get their monies. So why do you evaluate beforehand? I don't understand. If your debate was saying, please ensure that it happens on that day, that will be a point on the spot. To say, President, are you going to make sure it happens? To say, punish somebody before. That's the point I was making to the honorable member here. Equally, with Minister Mtambi, there has been a report, as far as I know, and I think she has said she's taking the report to review. We don't know what to be the final outcome. Why do you then take action to a minister who's still looking at what she would not perhaps agree with? That's demanding too much of the president. Once we do so, we are going to say this president is a dictator. He just decides even if there are no facts. Because what is it that you are going to evaluate when the matter is being undertaken to other levels of legal looking at it or examination? So I don't understand, why do you think this president must then evaluate? As soon as there is a pity, then you evaluate. Evaluate is pity. It can't be. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mnguni. The Honorable Mnguni.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you to the Honorable President for the absolute clarity. I would like to, noting the response, check if His Excellency the President has had the members of the National Executive sign any performance contract with performance audits undertaken from time to time, and whether accordingly the President has regularly checked on the performance using such tools. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, the members of the executive signed agreements with the President of performance, and there are regular reports on those performance that the executive, the cabinet meets to receive from ministers to see what progress is being made. There's always clear reports where there's more progress, where there's lesser progress, and where perhaps progress is not. And then that is discussed by the cabinet. In addition to that, the president and the deputy president, from time to time, we meet the individual departments to do the evaluation. In addition to the Department of Performance Monitoring and Evaluation, that also does that on a regular basis. So that is always done. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mulder.
Honorable President, when you started to answer the question, you referred to the Constitution and you referred to Section 69, but it's Section 96. Now, with all due respect, Mr. President, it's not a funny democracy. The answer is a bit funny, with all due respect. You see, Mr. President, the problem is this. You say there's no problem. You said that abroad as well, there's no problem. The question being asked to you is, what are you doing as the head of the executive to make sure that your ministers are accountable? That's the question. Now, the problem is this. You say there's no problem because nothing has happened. Your own party issued a statement this morning to say we urgently need to find out how did this happen? How did we get into this crisis that the Constitutional Court now has to express itself? The Chief Justice yesterday basically said the minister is incompetent. So the point is, Mr. President, with all due respect, those allowances may be paid on the 1st of April, but currently there's a crisis. Your own party admits that in a statement. The issue is in front of the Constitutional Court, and the President says there's no problem and you cannot act at this stage. Mr. President, maybe you should not be advised by some of your ministers. That's the problem.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, as an opposition member, he must stand up and say something, even if we have answered the question. It's absolutely not correct that we said there is no problem. We said the 1st of April has not come. And we said, even now as I speak, the Social Development Department and Treasury are meeting to solve the problem that they are faced with of ensuring that on the 1st, people receive their money. I didn't say there is no problem in that sense. All I said is that the 1st of April has not arrived. Whatever we say, you can't say people have not been paid because the date has not arrived. That's the point I was making. And people are working to make sure that on the 1st, the beneficiaries will receive their benefits. That's what I'm saying. Only after the 1st, you can say to me, why are you not taking action to this minister? He has failed. You can't say the minister has failed when the date which will demonstrate the failure or no failure has not come. It's a premature debate that we are engaging in. I'm very clear. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to question number 3, asked by the Honorable Masango, the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. President Nelson Mandela declared in December 1997 that we can never be free until Palestine is free. He stated, and I quote, "We know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians," unquote. Guided by our history of struggle and by Madiba, South Africa continues to pledge our unshakable solidarity with the Palestinian people and to support the cause of the emancipation of the Palestinian people. South Africa remains convinced that a two-state solution is the only possible solution for durable peace in the region. We reiterate that the expansion of Israeli settlements in Palestinian territories undermines global efforts aimed at realizing the two-state solution and the Oslo Accord. After 50 years under Israeli occupation, Palestinians continue to live in a deplorable conditions. They are subjected to human rights violations and face what UN special rapporteurs have described as a form of apartheid. We continue to support all international efforts aimed at achieving a viable Palestinian state existing side by side with Israel in terms of the 1967 borders. These initiatives include the French initiative, in which we participated last year. We have supported UN resolutions in support of Palestine. We also played a leading role in the attempts by Palestine to gain UN membership. While the initiative has yet to be successful, we are confident that we will one day welcome a free Palestine into the family of the United Nations. We will continue at every occasion, whether bilateral or multilateral, to champion the cause of the Palestinian people. Just last month, on the 21st to 22nd February, we attended the 6th International Conference in support of the Palestinian Intifada. We are also continuing to champion the cause of the Palestinians within groupings that we belong to, such as the non-aligned movement. At the end of this month, we will attend a BRICS high-level meeting on the Palestinian situation. This year, we also celebrate the centenary of Oliver Reginald Tambo, who reaffirmed, and I quote, the principled solidarity of the African National Congress and the people of South Africa with the struggle of the Palestinian people, unquote. We will never turn our backs on the Palestinian people. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Masango.
Thank you very much, Honorable President, for your very comprehensive answer. Honorable President, it is the policy of the ANC-led government to discourage members of the government to visit the State of Israel. Recently, the leader of the opposition visited Israel and met with the most conservative, most reactionary, and most ultra-right-wing Prime Minister of Israel. But during the same visit, the Palestinian Authority refused to meet with him. This is a clear indication of the DA's support for Israel's government occupation of the Palestinian territory. Honorable President, would you condemn such visits and call on the public representatives and people to refrain from going to Israel unless it has to do with the process of peace? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Certainly from the government point of view, we don't necessarily encourage people to go to Israel. Of course, there are parties with their policies and whatever, which will also indicate by conduct. We have heard people who have gone in the Middle East as participating in encouraging the process of solving the problem in the Middle East between Israel and Pakistan. That is a different kind of visit if you go there. But generally, we are not necessarily encouraging people to do so. Just to go there on a happy mood, like, as it were, much as we don't have the law that says you can't go to exile. But we always look towards the political understanding of what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. Well, if you think they're not doing that much, it's your own problem, but that's our position. Those who make contact with Israel in order to ensure that we push the solution of the two sides is a different matter. So that's what we do. The leader of the opposition goes there with his party. That is their own kind of decision they take. I don't think we would want to interfere, except to make the point that we don't generally encourage people to do so. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, it is quite clear that Israel continues to violate all human rights. They continue building settlements despite all the necessary agreements and the efforts by law-abiding countries throughout the world to try and find a peaceful settlement. And yes, I must agree, there are those opportunists in this country that oppressed us for hundreds of years, are now supporting Israel to continue oppressing the people of Israel, of Palestine. Now, Mr. President, this is aggravated by colonialist and imperialist countries that also seem to support this oppression of our people. And it appears it's all about resources, to get control of oil, to get control of minerals, which is what they are doing throughout the world. What is South Africa, Mr. President, going to do, or can we do, to influence or to get people at the table from all different walks of life, different parts of the world, to come together and see exactly what the people of Palestine are going through, what they are really entitled to, so that we could find a peaceful settlement, so that these people can at least have that dignity. Otherwise, Mr. President, our people are continuing to die in Palestine mercilessly at the hands of these oppressors, day in and day out. Thank you, Mr. President.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, I agree with the honorable member that Israel has violated the international laws in the manner in which they handle Palestinians. That is a well-known fact. But I think organizations have met to discuss this issue, whether in the United Nations. There is no international fora that this matter is not discussed. And it is being condemned by many countries. As I talked about, the non-aligned movement, for an example, is one of the organizations that talks about this, the AU, even the United Nations itself. South Africa is part of those forums. Last year, I paid a visit in the Middle East. I visited in a reasonably short space of time 4 countries. And one of the issues in the agenda that was there was Israel. And what I found in the Middle East was that even Arab countries that had held very extreme views about Israel, they are now saying they accept the 2-state solution and that they need peace in the Middle East, that without solving the Palestinian question, there will be no peace in the Middle East. So it seems generally the broader global community is agreeing that what has been put as the solution in Israel, Palestinians, is what everybody accepts. The problem has been those countries that hold the final say, who have not been able to exercise their authority to ensure that this is indeed undertaken. So we are part of the forces globally that are persuading both Israel as well as other countries that let us resolve this matter. And we will continue to do so as a country. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Reverend Mishwe.
Speaker, with the exception of a few members of this House who were not yet born, and those who are still in their nappies, many of us who were offered Bantu education will remember that in religious education classes, we were taught about King David, who ruled the nation of Israel over 3,000 years ago, and that he ruled from Jerusalem, which was the capital city of the nation of Israel. That was before the advent of Christianity and Islam, and before the word Palestine ever evolved. Would the President agree that one of the reasons that negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians have stalled is their disagreement over the status of Jerusalem, which the Palestinians want to see divided, and the Israelis want it to remain as undivided capital of the state of Israel? And what is your position, Honorable President, regarding the status of Jerusalem? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've never entered in the politics of of Jerusalem. I don't think that is my task. Nor have I ever entered in the history in the past who was there, who was not there, who was a citizen then and who was not a citizen then. That's not my area. What I'm dealing with are the issues today of Israelis and Palestinians and the history that we know and what the world is saying. And I think the world that we are talking about, which we say it agrees, it includes both Christians and Muslims. On this general issue, everybody agrees that let us have two-state solution. That is the point we are talking about. As to how David ruled over 3,000 years, I don't think I want to enter that kind of politics. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mwango.
Honorable Speaker, Mhlonishwa Umsholozi, arising from your response, Your Excellency, I would like to know whether South Africa supports the Paris Initiative by the French President to resuscitate negotiations between Israel and Palestine to implement the two-state solution as the only viable and peaceful option to resolve that impasse in Israel and Palestine. Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, as I was giving the answers on the very same issue, I did indicate that we participated in the Paris Initiative. Any initiative that is directed towards solving the Palestinian question, particularly on the accepted principles by the globe, we support. We work with those to find a solution. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable members, we now move to question number 4. And I'd like to point out to honorable members that part of this question touches on an area that has already been dealt with in question number 2. However, we entertain it because B of this question is a new question. This question has been raised by the Honorable van der Merwe, and I ask the Honorable President to please address the question.
Honorable Speaker, the social grants are one of our most effective poverty alleviation mechanisms. They also remain one of the key achievements of our country and our government. We appreciate the fact that even political parties that have been critical of social grants over the years have now realized the important role of the grants in the fight against poverty. Government is doing everything possible to ensure that there are no interruptions to the normal process of paying social grants to beneficiaries at the end of this month. Sifuna ukubanika isiqiniseko abantu abathola izibonelelo kuhulumeni, izimpesheni zabadala, izibonelelo zezingane, kanye nabakhubazekileyo, ukuthi senza konke okusemandleni ukuze kungabikho ukuphazamiseka kwalomsebenzi. Bazoyithola imali yabo ekupheleni kwenyanga ogogo nomkhulu izingane nabakhubazekileyo. The solution, lessons will be learned from the current unfortunate episode to ensure that there is no recurrence. I will not get into the details at this stage, as the Constitutional Court is currently seized with this matter. As government, will ensure that a sustainable payment solution is found which is compliant with our Black economic empowerment imperatives and all our laws. The solution must also help us to ensure that fraud and corruption do not take place in the social grants payment system. Government already saves about 1 billion rand annually in the social grant system currently through our effective anti-fraud measures in the Department of Social Development, which is a great achievement. We deeply regret the current situation as government. We will ensure that there is never again any apprehension with regards to the payments of social grants to our people. Action against ministers is the prerogative of the President. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable President, with all due respect, that is not what I asked you. I asked you what steps will you take against the Minister of Social Development. This is not about the 1st of April and whether grants will be paid or not. You have to pay grants. It is your responsibility. This is about a rogue minister that ignored the Constitutional Court for 3 years, did nothing to ready herself for 1 April, that has put at risk the lives of the most vulnerable, which you now say is an unfortunate situation. So I'm asking you, if you're telling us that you'll take no steps against the minister, are you also telling us that respect for our courts and the rule of law is optional, firstly? Secondly, Honourable President, I forewarned you about this crisis exactly a year ago in this House when I asked you to please establish a commission of inquiry to look into CPS, Net1 and SASSA and the illegal deductions coming off grant recipients' accounts. And you said to me, and this is your response, you said, and I quote, "I'm saying that I do not see right now, given the reports before me, why we should form a commission." So I'm asking you now, will you also take personal responsibility for this crisis? Will you now establish a commission of inquiry to look into this dodgy deal? Look at, for example, there's a rumor in the ANC caucus, for example, that CPS is paying for Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma's campaign, and I want you to comment on that. So my question is,
Order. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, please allow Honorable van der Merwe to finish her question, Honorable Singh. Please finish, Honorable van der Merwe.
Honourable President, I'm asking you, will you now consider establishing a commission of inquiry to look into the dodgy CPS-SASSA deal? Will you look into the rumours that the CPS is paying for your preferred candidate for the presidency, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma's campaign? And will you...
Order,
I'm asking you to investigate, Honourable President, because if you tell me that you are not going to launch an investigation into this matter, then you're also telling me that you are not that you do not care for the most vulnerable in our society because this company is responsible for illegal deductions from grant recipients. So I'm asking you, will you launch a commission of inquiry into this matter, Honorable President?
You have asked so many questions, Honorable van der Merwe, but the President is free to answer at least whichever one of them.
Order, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable
Order, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Please, Honorable Speaker, can I know if it is parliamentary to bring into this house rumors? Are we supposed to discuss rumors?
Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, I just want to rise on a point of order.
Yes, Honorable President, please take a seat.
Honorable Speaker, in terms of the rules of this House, which is also in the Constitution, a member is entitled to freedom of speech. So that point of order is totally out of order. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Singh, a member indeed is entitled to freedom of speech. The Honorable, the President, has the freedom of speech to answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Well, the Honorable Member has actually repeated the questions that I've answered. But since there is a freedom of speech for her to do so, I will repeat my answers as well. As a freedom of my speech, it looks like. Because firstly, if I go to what the Honorable Member says, when she asked me a while back to establish a commission of inquiry, she did not present any evidence to say these are the matters that need to be investigated. This is what the department has done. Even now, she wants me to do the same on a matter that I say what is being discussed. There are allegations, perhaps, if she's aware of it. What we are looking at, and to answer the question whether we are not caring about the vulnerable, what we are working with now is to ensure that they receive their benefits on the first. That is caring for the vulnerable. That's what we are doing. You want to divert me not to do that, to start now working on something else. I think the Honorable Member has a right to present her case, if she has a case to present, and make the proposal that we should evaluate and see what we can do. We are not saying nothing has gone wrong. We are not saying these companies did not siphon money. I don't know about that. If you know, those are facts that we have got to support to say these are the things that have happened and therefore we need investigation. I don't think you can include that about the political statement of people who are being supported because they're going to elections. You actually dilute your question. I'm not sure whether we are just doing political exercise or we are asking a serious question. That is my problem with your questioning. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Olomisa.
Mhlali ngaphambili Mongameli namalungu abekekileyo alendlu yowiso-mthetho. Make si-evaluate lena nxamalala seyenzekile. Abantu abadala bayakhala bathi imali yabo ididaktiwe iya ko-airtime. Ngenyanga kuyabonakala njengoba simamele napha ecourt uba R500 million yonke itsalwa kwaba mama kule sibanika yona singurhulumente neparlamente. Ndiphakamela ke mna ke Nxamalala ukukucebisa uwayeke lamankenjana akho angxolayo.
Umbuzo endinawo ngulo. Besingenako na Mr President. Ukuthi uke ningurhulumente ni applyele phaye court okokuba ngaba ezimali zithe zadeductwa ngendlela engeyiyo sele ne constitutional court ithele contract irongo azinawuqokelelwa na ni applyele into ba nifuna order kubuyiselwe ezamali zalamaxhegwazana zitsalelwe i-airtime or electricity kufanele ke ngoku ndiyibe ngesilungu ndithi ndizovala. Would it not be prudent for your government to approach the courts to issue an order that will empower government and then enable beneficiaries to recoup the monies that were illegally taken through the illegal CPS Net 1 contract? Uba uthi ke ayikho ready ngoku umphako endikurhabulisa ngawo uba next week masiqale lo process le mali mayibuye ibuyisele abanikazini bayo. Thetha namageza akho angangcola apha ehousing.
The Honorable, the President.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ndiyakuva lilungu elihloniphekileyo. Tokunayo andinaqiniso kakuhle kuba ubufakazi sinabo obuzele kuba nyani yenzekile lonto noma kayenzekanga na. Ngale kwentetho nje ezizithethwayo.
Hayi sorry tata.
Tatulo misa hlala phansi.
Imali ubufakazi bemali iyatsalwa ngosithethayo yalamaxhegwazana ikhona iyenzeka lona.
Tatulo misa ngicela uhlale phansi.
Minister azazi kubrief kahle kanti. Hawu.
Honorable President, please proceed.
Benzama nokho ndabona uba nokho ungxamile umhlekazi. Kuba ndithi xa ndizasuka ndenze into mandithole kalokho into ebambekayo into ezithethekayo ukuthi kunemali insala andiyazi ukuthi insala kuyiphi ibhanki insalwa ngubani bekutheni xa ndingalandeli izinto ezithethwayo nje ngawonke amaxesha kube sakuthiwe hey abantu bantshontsha imali kunabantu ababathanda kune corruption seninganjalo ndithi ake sifuna kuba yiphi le corruption ndifuna mntu ndixelele uba nansi into yenzeke apha xa unobuqiniso balokho okanye xa unobunyani balokho undinikeze kaloku ndazi ukuthi xa ndithi ndithatha amanyathelo ndiwathathela lento into endingayifuniyo ukuthatha iintetho nje ezizela apha emoyeni ndizenze into ndibe ndingenabuqiniso balokho ndibe ndingani uba xa ndiphenya ndizophenya phi awuzenzi ngisho labantu okuthiwa abantu abathi xa bebona into bazokusebenzela ukuba nansiya iphaya xa ungafuni uyithetha apha eningini xa uyazi kalokhu loo nto ndizokwazi ukusuka ndiqonde ngqondo bamba umntu ngoku xa uthi nje kuthi uyansalwa nje nangoku silapha nje iyansalwa uyibona njani ula ukuthi iyansalwa impunge mosilela uthi silanje iyansalwa insalwaphi
mhlekazi ngawuphendula umbuzo ayizusisandawo into ukhanyela imali yabantu abadala itsaliwe net papers karhulumente zitsho zithi itsaliwe le mali why uphika le cabinet uyitsherishayo
Tatulo misa ngicela uhlale phansi
ananyani mali.
Speaker. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker.
Iva mhlekazi akuyona icabinet manisale wena othi insaliwe imali ndifuna apha ku andifuni kubantu abanye bakhombe amatyala emacaleni uthi yansalwa nangoku insalwa phi ngubani kanjani xelela mna msukuthi iyathethwa nje
itsalwa ngu-CPS imali yabantu abadala uyayazi le nto ndithetha ngayo
ndenza into okundixelela uyiletha nangu CPS wenze lento apha
Honorable members, Honorable Maimane.
Honorable Speaker, on
Yes,
a point of
Honorable,
order.
yes, Honorable Khatebe.
Honorable Holomisa has just said that the president is lying. He said that, and it is unparliamentary. Number two, he called the members on this side Amankenchana, Namakeza. That's despicable language. Can you rule on that, please? Thank you.
Speaker.
Honorable Olomisa, can you withdraw saying the president is lying?
Akathethi nyani yaphinda. Upresident akathethi nyani because uaware uba imali yabantu abadala
Honorable
kudala
Olomisa,
itsalwa.
Honorable Olomisa,
Makathi ndiyaxoka ngoku kuyelo phambi kwam.
Honorable Olomisa, I say you should withdraw that because you cannot
right.
say that.
Ndizayirhoxisa kodwa inyani yona ihleli njalo.
Xa urhoxisa, rhoxisa.
Rhoxisa, rhoxisile,
Ewe,
rhoxisa mama.
Okay.
Speaker.
Honorable.
Speaker, I've been on my feet for 5 minutes. You've ignored me. I want to provide some guidance on this issue. Because.
No.
Speaker.
No,
I've got a
Honorable.
Hansard here where the
Honorable
President
van der Merwe,
admits-
please take your seat. Please take your seat, Honorable van der Merwe. I wish to recognize Honorable Maimane.
Mongamel, you've come to this house to talk about funny democracy when we've asked you to take action. Let me perhaps maybe help. You know what funny democracy is? This Ministry of his pity, as you said it. 2 Decembers ago, a sitting finance minister is doing their job. They get fired for a pretentious job. But a number of years later, a minister who is not doing their job, no, they get protected by you, and you come to parliament to defend the minister who is completely incompetent. It can't be. That's funny democracy. And you've come here to say, look, there's no crisis.
Honorable Maimane, do you have a question?
I'm getting there.
You are left with 11 seconds.
No! You've come here to say, Uguti, your cabinet said this morning there is a crisis. Your cabinet said so. My question to you is that your legal advisor, Mr. Hali, has been involved in these negotiations. The presidency issued a statement to say, no, we don't know anything about it. Have you engaged Mr. Hali to find out what is the extent of his involvement and why is your strategic advisor meddling in the affairs of dealing with this SASA crisis as we see it, not like you see it?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm not sure whether the honorable member wants me to follow individuals, whatever they do. I don't know. Now, if you expect me to answer questions on behalf of other people, simply because I know those people, that you are actually demanding an impossible thing. And secondly, you are talking about a finance minister who was removed without doing anything. You don't know the reasons. Presidents, when they take decisions, they don't publicize the decision, why they take the decision about anything. No.
Honorable members, you surprise me because now you are shouting instead of listening to an answer. Please proceed, Honorable President.
No. All I'm saying, I cannot answer the question about why Mr. Hali, how Mr. Hali went there. I don't discuss things between Mr. Hali and people that he can work with. You think he was acting on my behalf? No, I'm saying, but I'm answering you. I'm answering you that on this matter, whatever Hali did, I don't even know the arrangements. Mr. Hali is a lawyer. I don't know under what conditions if that happened. No, I'm just saying because you are mentioning somebody who is a third party. No, I am telling you that you are asking me a question that I cannot answer. That's all.
Order, honorable members.
Harley is a lawyer. He works with me. You question me on the matters that he deals with on my behalf. Not any other. They would think if he's defending somebody somewhere, will that be my problem? But he is a practicing lawyer. He runs a firm. Harley runs a legal firm. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Shengwa.
Thank you very much, Somlomo. Mhlonishwa Mengameli. Mr. President, on the 17th of March from that podium, you said the following, and I quote, Honorable Speaker, firstly, yes, illegal deductions from these accounts from South African Social Security Agency, SASSA, grant beneficiaries are on the increase. Close quote. That was you, Mr. President, on the 17th of March, 2016, confirming that illegal deductions were taking place. Today, on the 16th, you come and deny that. I put it first to you, Madam Speaker, that please investigate the President whether he has not today, right now, misled Parliament. The issue, that's what I wanted to raise. Now, Msholos, the issue, with all due respect, akukona ukuthi abantu bazohola ngunongeba mhla ka1 akukona lokho fanele baholele vele akubuzwa into ithi kufuna kuqhubeka inkontlaki yaka CPS yezigebengu ethatha imali yabantu uthula uthini abantu abahluphekayo bephethwe ngume ngamelwezwe bezoba yisulu zenkampani ewu-CPS entshontsha imali yabantu okuvumile nawe lo lathi ukuphika manje kodwa wakuvuma kwenzeka kanjani abantu bakithi impela nibanikele ezandleni zezigebengu siyivume kanjani leyo nto Msholozi ake nithembeke kubantu bakithi nibanikeze i-service provider engeke izibagebenge. Why is the post office being nudged out when it is an entity which can do the job? But Madam Speaker, I request you to investigate the President's utterances.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Okokuqala bengiphendula ilungu elihloniphekileyo elithi licela ukuthi ngiyophenya kulabantu okuthiwa balokhuza imali. Ngithi uma ethi angiyophenya kanginikeza ubufakazi obuqotho obuqonde ngqo. Yileyo nto engishilo. So that ngikwazi not inkulumo general because nalokho engangikusho ngangikhuluma ngenkulumo general kuthiwa bayayithatha imali labantu. Umnomzane uthi angiyophenya lento ngithi nginikeze manje ngoba usho njalo ikuphi baphi ngibhekane nawo ngqo angizange ngiphike ukuthi abayenzi lonto ngithe akanginike manje ngqo awungizwanga kahle.
Honorable members, we now move to question number 5. The Honorable Shenge.
Honorable Speaker, His Excellency the President, and honorable ministers, honorable deputy ministers, honorable members, I'm quite surprised, that our colleagues who are not today have such good students in both the DA and the ANC. This issue of completely drowning the President and drowning other speakers is absolutely despicable. And I'm surprised that they have such good proselytes in both the ANC and what. Why do you complain when they behave like that? You are very good students, all of you.
Honorable members, We now come to question number 5. And as we proceed with this question, let us not be the wrong students for the wrong lessons. This question was asked by the Honorable Mabika. The Honorable President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The appointment of persons to the National Executive is the prerogative of the President of the Republic as outlined in the Constitution. The President communicates publicly if he takes such a decision. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mabika.
Ngiyabonga Somlomo. Mhlonishwa Mongameli, you wear two hats. You are the president of our country and also the president of the ANC. Sometimes it is possible to wear each hat separately, but at times circumstances require you to wear them at the same time. Now, we all know that Mr. Mlife made a tearful exit from ESCOM after being implicated in the public protector's report on the state capture. And this is viewed as the tacit acknowledgement of his role in the whole state capture scandal. Mr. President, by virtue of your office, you are supposed to be the ultimate defender of our Constitution and the person who is tasked to ensure transparent and accountability governance in South Africa. Yes, the question is to the President, not to the howlers. How is it that you allowed your party to deploy a person of such questionable ethics to this honorable house, which is supposed to be the bastion of political virtue?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I thought this country is a democratic country, and I thought this country adheres to the rule of law. Now, if there are allegations, allegations are not convictions. Allegations are allegations. I don't understand this House that you would say if anyone made allegations, or an institution for that matter, that person must then be convicted and be punished. That person has no right to do what other citizens are doing. I don't know why, if there are allegations, or there were allegations, and the person is then supposed to be given a particular task by a party. Why should the party say, I can't give you, or give you the possibility to do anything because there are allegations against you? Allegations emerging from whatever process. If you stop that person and that person goes to court to say, my province gives him an opportunity, and the organization says I can't take it, and I don't understand why, because I'm not convicted. There is no adverse finding about me. Now, if we follow your logic, where is the rule of law? Where is the rule of law that says you are innocent until you are found guilty? Why should you be guilty before you are tried? I don't understand. I don't understand. And therefore, if the ruling party takes a decision to deploy its member,
Honorable member,
has
the
a right to do
President is
so.
still on the floor.
But the
No,
President...
Honorable Mabika, Honorable Mamiga, you asked a
Speaker.
question. The president is in the process of answering you.
But in answering,
Please take your seat. Take your seat. No, take your seat.
in answering,
Take your seat, Honorable Mabika.
Chairperson,
Take your seat.
but the president is asking
You
questions.
take your seat. Honorable the President, please continue.
I'd finished to answer the question. I'd said thank you,
Okay.
Speaker.
The Honorable Maimane.
You know, for once, I think we agree. Allegations are not convictions. Now, Mr. President, there seems to be a culture in South Africa where if you are politically connected, investigations don't take place against you. Now, let me give you a practical example. On Monday coming now, it will be 3 years.
Honorable members, please let the Honorable Maimane ask his question.
Yeah.
Please proceed.
It will be 3 years since I laid charges against you for corruption in the Nkandla Public Protector report, which there's been no investigation on that one. In November last year, I laid charges against Mr. Brian Molefe on the basis of the Public Protector report on the state of capture report. Now, I think we can both agree, in the interest of justice, if a citizen lays charges against someone, they must be investigated. I am here to ask you, as a sitting president who wants justice to work, whether you would support a view that the criminal charges I laid against Mr. Molefe must be investigated.
Do you have a question?
On the basis.
Actually,
That's
your
the
time has
question.
expired.
The question is, should the criminal charges against Molefe be investigated in South Africa?
Point of order. Point of order, Speaker.
Aye.
Point of order, Speaker. Point
Mr.
of order,
Molefe must be investigated. I want to know if the president would support those criminal charges.
Yes, Honorable Member, what's your point of order?
He was also convicted as a drug lord. They found drugs in his house.
No,
If you have a charge, go lay a
Honorable
charge. We'll
Member.
get back to that. I want to know the charges.
You've
against
asked
Mr.
the
Molefe
question,
and
we've read
yourself.
it. Yeah.
Should there be an investigation?
Madam Speaker,
Can we allow the President to answer?
no, I'd like to take a point of order, if I may.
No, Honorable Member, can I?
I would
can
like
first
to
of
take
all-
a point of order, if I may, in terms of the
No.
rules.
No.
I will. Thank you.
No, I want to hear the earlier point of order over there. Honorable Member, what's your point of order?
Point of order in terms of Rule 89. The matter, regarding Honorable Molefe, the member is referring to, has been taken on review. Therefore, in terms of the said rule, the matter is sub judice.
Honorable Member, I want to follow up on that point of order and I will rule later. Yes, Honorable Steenhuisen, what's your point of order?
Madam Speaker, I'd like to address you to Rule 85, if I may. The Honourable Manana got up and said that the Honourable Maimane is a convicted drug lord. Madam Speaker, that is a reflection upon a member of this House, and it is untrue, and she must be asked to withdraw it. And I would ask that you ask her to do so now.
I think the point on which she should withdraw is the fact that, in fact, she can't do what she has done, and that is not to bring the motion in the form of a substantive motion. So now I didn't see who it was who was saying that. Who was it? Who was it?
I will assist.
Honorable Manana. Honorable Manana. can you withdraw that, honorable member, because you are only allowed to bring such an accusation in the form of a substantive motion? Can you withdraw it?
Ngito withdraw, Speaker, kodwa
Ugodwa akafuneki. Ugodwa akafuneki sisi. Withdraw
I
nje
will face
siyavuma.
any investigation. Let her lay the charge. I'm asking the president if he'll
withdraw.
support an investigation into
Okay,
Mr. Molefe.
thank you very much for withdrawing. Can we now allow the Honorable, the President, to answer the question raised by the Honorable Maimane?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And of course, Honorable Maimane has laid charges. I don't think it is for me to say whether charges must be investigated or not. That is the job of to those to whom you laid charges. Those are the ones. I can't make an assessment and determination. I can't. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable
It's not
Singh.
Not my call. It's not my call. No. Connected to, I'm not connected.
Honorable Maimane and the Honorable the President and the dialogue. Can we allow Honorable Singh to ask his supplementary question? Honorable Singh?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I trust the dialogue is now over. Honorable Speaker, there's no gotwa when somebody has to withdraw. They must withdraw.
Yeah.
But that's not my question. Honorable Speaker, I can't proceed with my question because there's so much of noise.
Order, honorable members. Please allow Honorable Singh to ask his supplementary question.
Unless they
She
don't-
did withdraw, by the way.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
gotwa.
After that, she did
Okay,
withdraw.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
Honorable Speaker, I think, firstly, we must say that we respect the constitutional right of the President to appoint members of the executive. That is not in question, so he's quite correct with his answer. But I want to remind the Honorable President, well, he's aware of this 355-page State of Capture report. We've heard this word being used earlier on, Mr. President, by you, that there's a funny democracy. On the 23rd of November, in a question that I asked you, follow-up question, you said this report has been dealt with in a very funny way. Very funny in my view. Everything seems to be funny. But you said, and I quote, Mr. President, you said it affected you and many. And I agree that it would affect you and many. And you said there was no fairness at all. Now my question relates to the role of the Honorable Molefe when he was CEO of ESCOM. There are a number of allegations made in this report. Now, Mr. President,
Order, honorable members. Please allow Honorable Singh to finish.
now,
Honorable members, please allow Honorable Singh to speak. Please finish, Honorable Singh.
Okay, Honorable Speaker, Minister Zulu is trying to engage in a dialogue with me. Now, we've heard today, Honorable President, from a backbencher that this report has been taken in review. And we would like the President to confirm whether it has been. But in relation to ESCOM, I asked in November whether you will appoint an investigating committee into the Tegeta deal. Your own Minister of Public Enterprises says this, and I quote, I really hope the President appoints the commission at some point. It's necessary so we can talk a few things through, Brown said in an interview with the City Press sister newspaper. Now, in view of this and the call for an investigation to clear the Honorable Molefe's name and your name and anybody else's name, what would your position be today on this matter, Honorable President?
Honorable President.
No, thank you, Madam Speaker. I think the honorable member said a number of things on this report. And when I answered you, when you were asking a question, and I told you what happened, I was not talking about the matter far away from me. I was talking about a very concrete, practical, personal experience with regard to this report. And up to now, I can't tell you what will be the real outcome of this report. Whether this report, because it's those who were talked about there, including myself, investigation should have meant that we were met and asked questions, we should respond to the question. You can't conclude about an individual without having asked individuals the questions. And that's a problem with that report. And that's why I wouldn't want to make more comments than what I did say that time. And I still say that the public protector, former public protector, was unfair. Firstly, I did indicate she had said she was reporting to me as the president that there is this request that has come. She's still evaluating. The next thing she says, could I have a meeting so that I can give a report? And before we met, 3 days before, I will want to ask you questions. And I was not prepared when we met. And I said, you have not even sent me the questions. And we argued for a long time. And I said it was unfair. I told her to. It's unfair. If you want to ask me questions, you better give me a good chance so that I can answer the questions. And she made the conclusions of the report. That's the point I was talking about. Now, I don't know how it treated Mr. Molefe, but insofar as I know my experience with the report, it was unfair the way the matter was handled on this report. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Tlowama.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Today, Honorable President, I'm not proud of you. Your answers are not inspirational. Honorable Speaker, Honorable President, don't you think, Honorable President, that the presence of Honorable Molefe in this House diminish the dignity of this Parliament? Don't you think that this signal your unethical don't you think it signals unethical leadership on your part? I thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The presence of Mr. Molefe in this House does not diminish the dignity of this House. It doesn't in any way. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We now come to the last question, question number 6, asked by the Honorable Williams. The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The National Infrastructure Program is making a positive and very concrete contribution to the economy, job creation, and transformation. Investment in infrastructure is important for a number of reasons. First, infrastructure development creates the economic platforms on which a modern economy rests through, for an example, the building of energy plants, port facilities, broadband systems, and water supplies to mines, farms, and industry, as well as households. New power plants generating close to 6,000 megawatts of energy have been completed. Second, infrastructure activities employ many thousands of people in construction activities. Currently, well over 200,000 jobs are tracked in the public infrastructure program. Third, infrastructure procurement stimulates industrial development when components are sourced from local manufacturers, whether cement or industrial components in power plants or buses used in the public transport systems. In the past 5 years, South Africa has developed the most advanced minibus taxi manufacturing capability on the continent. 56,000 new taxis have been assembled locally. Fourth, infrastructure expansion attracts private sector investment either directly in infrastructure such as through the renewable energy program or through investment in factories and mines that use energy or water. Over the next 3 years, we expect more than 900 billion rand to be invested in new infrastructure or in the maintenance of infrastructure. Economic modeling work done by government shows that without the additional investment in infrastructure, the economy would have gone into a recession in 2015. The infrastructure program also helps to transform the economy. An agreement was reached with the construction industry recently. This agreement will transform the sector, bringing in black investors and black-owned construction companies, and improving the number of players and competitors in the sector. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Williams.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Honourable President, for your answer. Mr. President, in light of the billions of rands that are being invested in the infrastructure program, what mechanisms have been put in place to ensure that the widest possible number of our people benefit from this spend and not just a privileged few? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, a number of programs have been made to ensure that in the area that I've talked about, there is indeed economic activities, also introducing new players so that we could grow the economy. So I'm convinced that these efforts will certainly go somewhere in terms of ensuring that the economy grows and that jobs are created. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Maimane.
President, I think we agree that infrastructure is crucial for economic growth. Transport is a crucial component of infrastructure because it helps many poor South Africans get to and from work. But in this particular instance, the state-owned enterprise responsible for commuter transport, PRASA, has been involved in corrupt scandals. In fact, it's recently dismissed its CEO, and the minister has taken action in dissolving the board. Now, the former PRASA chairperson, Ntate Popo Molefe, went on his way and stated under oath in an affidavit to say, before a court of law, that the ANC, as well as PRASA officials, were therefore beneficiaries of a bribe to secure Sifwambo a 3.5 billion locomotive tender. Mr. President, do you believe, did in fact the ANC receive the 80 million rand bribe that is being described here in awarding the contract to Sifwambo? And did you instruct the ANC MPs who are sitting here now crying to do a U-turn on the decision to set up a parliamentary inquiry into what in fact is taking place at PRASA? So I want to know, did you receive 80 million rands as the ANC? And can you support that in fact we must have an inquiry into PRASA? Thank you very much.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Firstly, I don't know about the amount we are talking about. As an ANC president, I don't know about it. Those have been allegations which, of course, as you correctly say, will need to be investigated to prove whether indeed that happened. Now, PRASA has been busy doing internal investigation, as far as I know, on the matters that have been alleged. I don't know how far those investigations are. And therefore, to establish an inquiry on top of investigations, I'm not sure whether that would be the correct thing to do before we know the outcome of the investigations. Those investigations are ongoing. We will hear, once those investigations have been done, how far, if there will be a need for inquiry. I'm sure we will agree at a given time if there is a need that we should do the inquiry. Because one of the things that could happen is that the investigation could lead to court and decisions of the court. So you may not have a need for any inquiry. So that's why I'm saying at this point in time, we can't say, yes, we are going to do inquiry until those investigations are clear. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Eskereisen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, in some way, the continued slide of the South African economy can be attributed to the persistent and significant infrastructure constraints. But you and everyone else here only spoke about business. Mr. President, thousands of people who migrate from urban areas every month hoping for a better life and only the basic services. What will you do rather, Mr. President, to end the disparities between rural and urban population and to ensure infrastructure delivery in the rural areas? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Of course, we are doing something about the rural areas. We have programs that deal with rural development. We even established a department specifically to deal with that. We are discussing and we are working on the plans how to resuscitate the small towns as part of developing infrastructure in the rural areas. That is what the government is doing. It's a matter we are dealing with right now. So I hope that will help to arrest the movement that you referred to from rural to the urban areas, because we are trying to create jobs in the rural areas themselves. That is part of the plan of the government.
I'm waiting for the usual.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I can see the President has totally forgotten about me here behind. The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, my question is twofold. First of all, I like it when I hear people talk about that there should be investigations into corruption and that kind of thing. Would you, Mr. President, consider an investigation into the alleged corruption of a 113 million rand tender by the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape? Would you, Mr. President, initiate an investigation into the corruption where the right-hand man of Premier Helen Zille awarded 70 million rand contracts to his wife and mother-in-law? Finally, Mr. President, in terms of the infrastructure development, there is no doubt that it is making an immense impact positively in the economy. My challenge, however, is that sometimes these infrastructure development where resources are diverted to are not being utilized, and as a result thereof, what happens is the twofold problem. The resources are diverted from one area to the infrastructure development. When that does not take place, service delivery suffers there, plus money has been diverted from another area, suffers there. What can we do to ensure there is compliance on the ground in terms of infrastructure development? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Certainly, if there are developments that are being done and there is a need to divert the funds, and I'm sure that is done after consideration and discussions and decisions taken, if that is done. I don't think anyone can just take the resources of one project to the other. And if that is done, it should be, and there would be an understanding how then you will take care of the area where you removed funds from, and I would imagine. And there should be compliance in terms of what happens if you divert funds, etc., etc. With regards to the allegations of the monies taken by DA, well, those are allegations as well. And I'm sure the law enforcement agencies will have to do their work if that happens. And if such an allegation comes to say, let us investigate this, and there are indeed facts, I'm sure that will be investigated as well. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, that concludes questions to the President. I thank the Honorable the President. That concludes the business for the day. The House is adjourned.
Move along, please.